Hello, everyone. Today we're going to talk about something you use every single day, but probably never think about. Everyday objects. Things so ordinary, they almost disappear from our attention until you hear their strange stories. Let's start with the fork. Yes, the fork. For centuries, people in Europe thought forks were unnecessary, even sinful. Why would you need a fancy metal stick when God gave you fingers? In fact, when forks first appeared in Italy, some church leaders called them an insult to God. It took hundreds of years before the fork became normal at the dinner table. Imagine a medieval feast, everyone eating with their hands, and one guest suddenly pulls out a fork. People would stare at them like they were from another planet. Now, let's move to the toothbrush. Ancient Egyptians were already cleaning their teeth, but not with mini toothpaste. They used sticks with frayed ends, dipped in powder made from ashes and crushed eggshells. Sounds rough, right? The modern toothbrush, with bristles, was invented in China around the 1400s, and it's slowly spread across the world. But toothpaste as we know it, that came much later. In the 1800s, people used chalk, soap, and even charcoal. Only in the 20th century did toothpaste become the smooth, minty gel we know today. And what about buttons? Today they're everywhere, on shirts, jackets, even jeans. But when buttons first appeared in medieval Europe, they were a luxury item. Only the rich could afford them, and they weren't even used for fastening clothes. They were decoration, a way to show off wealth. It took centuries before buttons became practical and affordable for everyone. So next time you button your shirt, remember, you're wearing what was once a symbol of high fashion. Here's another fun one, the umbrella. In ancient times, umbrellas were symbols of power. In Egypt, China, and India, only kings or nobles could use them. Ordinary people had to walk in the sun or rain without one. It wasn't until the 1700s in Europe that umbrellas became popular for everyday use. And even then, men refused to carry them at first because they thought umbrellas looked too feminine. One brave man in London, Jonas Hanway, carried an umbrella everywhere, and people laughed at him in the streets. But eventually, he started a trend, and umbrellas became normal. Let's talk about eyeglasses. Today, they're so common that we forget how revolutionary they were. The first eyeglasses appeared in Italy in the late 1200s, and they were clumsy, heavy, and had to be held in place by hand. Imagine trying to read while holding two pieces of glass in front of your eyes. Over time, they developed into spectacles with frames, and by the 1700s, Benjamin Franklin invented bifocals so he could read and see far away without switching glasses. Without this invention, millions of people would still be squinting at books. Owl socks. Yes, socks. The oldest known socks are from ancient Egypt, and they had a split toe designed to be worn as sandals. Not exactly the fashion statement we think of today. In medieval Europe, socks were a sign of wealth because they were made of silk. Ordinary people wore rough wool. It wasn't until knitting machines were invented in the 1500s that socks became more common. So the next time you pull on a pair of socks, remember, you're part of a tradition that goes back thousands of years. And finally, let's not forget paper clips. Such a tiny object, but so useful. The modern paper clip was patented in the late 1800s. Before that, people used pins, wax, or even ribbons to hold papers together. During World War II, Norwegians wore paper clips on their lapels as a symbol of resistance against the Nazis, because the clip represented unity, holding things together. A small object with a big meaning. But wait, there are more everyday heroes. Take the pencil. The first pencils were made in the 1500s in England, when a huge deposit of graphite was discovered. People wrapped the graphite in string or wood, and suddenly, writing became portable. Before that, writing meant ink, quills, and messy bottles. The pencil was so simple, yet so revolutionary. And the eraser? That didn't appear until the late 1700s, when someone realized that rubber could wipe away pencil marks. Imagine centuries of mistakes, with no easy way to erase them. Or consider the alarm clock. Ancient Greeks used water clocks, where dripping water would eventually ring a bell. In medieval monasteries, monks had human alarm clocks, people whose job was to wake others for prayers. The mechanical alarm clock, as we know it, only became common in the 1800s. And today, well, our phones do the job, sometimes too well. And here's a quirky one, the rubber band. Invented in the 1800s, it was such a simple idea. Stretchable rubber, looped into a circle. Yet it solved countless problems, from holding papers together to keeping hair tied back. It's one of those inventions that feels obvious, but only after someone thought of it. So, what do all these stories tell us? That even the most ordinary things, forks, toothbrushes, buttons, umbrellas, glasses, socks, paper clips, pencils, alarm clocks, and rubber bands have extraordinary histories. They remind us that human creativity is everywhere, not just in great inventions like airplanes or computers, but also in the small, everyday tools that quietly shape our lives. Thank you for listening, and see you next time with more curious tales from history.